Today, I thought we would take a look at a couple of our favorite fifth wheel hitches, sit down and give you a rundown of what we like about them and what stands out to why they would be our favorite hitches. How's it going? I'm Jared Gillis. Welcome to another All About RVs. Today we're going to be looking at a couple of hitches. My two favorite hitches, your standard fifth wheel hitches that if you picked either one of these, I really don't think you could go wrong. But we're going to compare them and show a lot of the similarities and some of the differences. So if you're deciding between a fifth wheel hitch, hopefully this video will help narrow it down between my two favorite fifth wheel hitches. So we're going to be looking at the Companion by B&W, and we're going to be looking at Curt. Both of them are going to have the same weight capacity, so it's going to be very apples to apples. And but let's look at the Companion first. So when B&W set out to make a fifth wheel hitch, they had three things that they were aiming for that they wanted to do. They wanted to make it safe, they wanted to make it smooth, and they wanted to make it removable. So if you removed it out of the bed of your truck, they didn't want to have rails or anything back there. You wanted to have a nice, clean bed of the truck that you could use. And if I could add a fourth one out of a hitch that I would want it to be easy to operate. And I would say that their hitch meets all four of those. When I was assembling it and putting it together, I was really impressed with the quality. I mean, this thing is stout. It's a beast. It's very heavy, but it is very, very well made. Now they have a few different fifth wheel hitches, but the one we're going to be talking about today is their Companion hitch with the OEM base. So this fits into the puck system of the Ram truck. They also have ones that fit into the gooseneck. Ours actually didn't have a gooseneck puck on our truck. So this is the OEM puck system for Ram. Now Ram, Ford, GMC, Chevy, they all have a little bit different layout and configuration for that puck system. So I think Ram is the widest. So this one, talking about the comparison in the weights and everything, Ram's probably going to be the heaviest because it's the widest, so there's going to be more metal to spread across to those different 4-point system in the bed of the truck. Now the towing capacity for this hitch is a hefty 25,000 pounds. The MSRP value is $1,400, and the base weight, just the base without the head, is 154 pounds for the Ram version, and for the Ford version it's 78 pounds. So you can see a difference in the weight between the two bases. Now the head on this is going to weigh around 75 pounds, which will be the same across all of them. It's the same head that goes on the different bases for the different trucks. So like I said, I was really impressed with the quality of the hitch when I was assembling it, and I was really surprised at how many configurations you could put this in for a Ram truck. The Ram truck, because the base is wider, you have a lot of options how you can mount it in the truck. You can put it behind the axle, over the axle, in front of the axle. You have, I think it was 6 inches of leeway of where you can put that. So you can match it up for the turning radius of your fifth wheel and your truck. So it gives you a lot of options in that regard. And then also you have your height adjustments. For the Ford and Chevy, there is, I think, a couple of inches where you can move it forward and backward depending on how you bolted in there. And then you also did have the height adjustments to be able to match up your fifth wheel to have the proper clearance to the truck and make sure that everything was level. So it was nice being able to have as many options, but we were able to put it pretty far forward because we have a long bed truck and we didn't have any issues with the turning radius. But it might be different for your situation. If you had a couple of inches that you just needed to spare before you had to move to a slider hitch, then this might be very beneficial to you to be able to have a hitch with so many mounting options. Now, one of the things that they did to try and make the ride smooth is on these arms, you have these bushings on top, and they're polyurethane bushings. They're solid, they're molded on there, so when the head fits on there, you grease those polyurethane bushings. But it's just a smooth operation to be able to have it tilt forward and backward on those bushings. So you can see that head can tilt forwards and backwards and also side to side, and it has like a piston on the side to help dampen that side to side movement and keep things smooth. Now, remember when they set out to make this hitch, they wanted to make it safe and smooth. And one way that they achieved two of those things is the jaws that clamp around there made out of this 1-inch steel. So very safe and very smooth. The reason why it's safe is because that steel is so thick and it's so tight around that pin, very low tolerance. Still plenty of room to move, but it's so tight that it's not going to come out. It's very safe in that regard. But it's also going to be smooth because there's not slop in there. It's not just a pin going across there locking that in. It's these jaws clamping around your fifth wheel pin so that when you're traveling, you don't have that slop when you're stopping and when you're going and you're hearing that clunking. It's a tight fit for that smooth, safe ride. Now for me, I wanted a hitch that was really easy to operate, and this one is. So you can open up that handle, and when you couple in the fifth wheel, you pull back into it. It's just a very solid connection. That handle comes snapping back, and you can put the pin down in there so that handle can't open and those jaws can't open while you're going down the road. Now, once you couple to your fifth wheel, you always want to check the pin back there to make sure that everything looks proper, that you're not high pinning it or coupled in there strange, but it's a very strong, solid connection that's just easy to operate. I also like the top plate on this hitch. The lines are really clean, and I like the way that it's just easy to see where I'm lining up the fifth wheel to the actual hitch when I'm backing up the truck. So that height is crucial because I want my fifth wheel to be about a 1/2 inch lower compared to where my hitch needs to be. So that way, when you're backing into it, it just gives you that nice connection and you're not worried about sitting too high on it, and you have that proper height adjustment. Also, when you're disconnecting from the fifth wheel, that arm is just easy to swing open, and you can actually pin it open. So if there's any kind of a strange angle or where there might be any kind of binding, you're able to pin it open. So once you're ready to pull away, you can just pull away and you don't have to worry about it trying to reconnect on there or close on it or bind in any other additional way. You pin it open and you can pull away. Just as a side note, talking about binding, I know a lot of people have issues with that in their fifth wheel hitch. We have the Anderson levelers, and almost every time we level up on those, we go backwards onto it. So we put those levelers behind the wheels and we pull back onto it. Oftentimes that will remove the pressure from being able to release the pin or the jaws on your fifth wheel hitch, and it allows it to operate freely. When you're going back and you're putting that pressure onto those Anderson levelers, it's releasing the pressure off of the pin or the jaws on your fifth wheel. But that to say, we haven't had any binding with either of these hitches that we're talking about today. A couple of the last things I wanted to mention about this hitch. One thing that I liked is you're able to make some adjustments for how it sits in that puck system. Just some micro adjustments because each truck is going to be slightly different, and you don't want to have to fight your system going into those pucks and being able to drop down and turn those handles. It's just easy if you're able to make those adjustments so it fits in there nicely. Now it just drops into the puck system. You have a 1/4 turn handle that locks it into place. It's just a snug fit, and then you have a pin that locks it in so that it cannot come out. One thing that sets this B&W Companion hitch apart is it's 100% American made. So it's an American company. They get their steel from here. They mill it here. They manufacture it here. They're very proud to say that they make the entire process here in the US, the mills that they know, and I've heard really good things about their staff. Having good customer service and a staff that's proud to produce what they're producing is a great way to have a great product. Now there's only one thing that I had a hard time doing with this hitch, and it's because it's the Ram version, so it's the heavier, bigger, bulkier version. You can remove it from the bed of the truck. Removing the head is extremely simple, so you can take the head off to not have to lift the entire thing out of the bed at the same time, but that base is extremely heavy. There is a lot of steel. They definitely made it smooth, they made it safe, and they did make it removable, and I was able to remove it on my own, but it was at my limit. It would be much better if you had two people to be able to lift it in and carry it out and be able to carry it wherever you needed to. But it is possible to do it by yourself, but it is extremely heavy. Remember that base comes at 157 pounds for the Ram. For the Ford, it was closer to 80, so you can see the difference in there, 157 to 80. So very heavy base, but once it was removed, you still have full use of the bed of your truck. Now, the next hitch that we're looking at is the Curt A25, and it's been fantastic too. We've been using it for the last few weeks, the last month, and it has been absolutely fantastic. Very impressed with it. The specs are very similar to the last hitch that we looked at. This can also tow 25,000 pounds. The MSRP value is almost identical at around $1,400. You can usually find it on Amazon for just under $1,000, between $800 and $1,000. It also works with the puck system in our Ram truck, so it just drops straight in there. We don't have putting rails in or anything like that. It's a very clean install into the truck. I can't exactly remember how much this one weighed, but we'll talk about moving it and handling it and what it's like to put it in the bed and out of the bed of the truck. But I wanted to talk about the jaws on this hitch because they're very similar to the last one. Very thick steel, a very secure, solid connection around that pin. It helps remove any of the motion, giving you a nice smooth ride for towing your fifth wheel. You're not going to get that bouncing back and forth when you're hitting your brakes and you're hitting the throttle. It's not going to have that slop in a hitch like this. I was also impressed with this hitch when I was assembling it. The quality is great. It is different than the Companion hitch. The Companion was more of a machined and welded put together base, to where this one's more of you have the head and you bolt on the legs. The Curt didn't have as many assembly options for being able to put it over the axle in front or behind. So you didn't have the lateral type of adjustment, but you still had the height configuration to be able to match it with your truck and the fifth wheel. Once you had it assembled, you could drop it into the pucks, and again, it's just a quarter turn to be able to lock that into the puck system, and then you drop the pins into there so that it can't come undone. So for being able to drop it in the truck and pull it out, it was very simple. Now this one didn't have those micro adjustments for being able to adjust exactly where it lines up with the puck system. It just, the legs were as they were, you kind of bolt them into place. So I did have a little bit of an issue trying to persuade it in once it was all assembled, but with a hammer, a swift hit, and a quick kick, I was able to drop it right into place. It took me a little while the first time being able to do that, but after you do it the second and third time, you kind of know how to persuade it and how to get it to drop into place. But it does take just a little bit more effort to be able to drop it in, but really not a big deal. Now with this hitch, we gain an indicator on the back that shows us what phase we're at. It gives us 3 different positions, whether we're going to be coupling and connecting, whether we're unhitching, or whether we're good to tow. So it gives us those 3 clear indications, and it's real easy to see what phase or what condition your hitch is in. This hitch is really easy to operate also. So when you're ready to connect your truck up to the fifth wheel, you're able to line it up, pull back, and that handle will actually spring into place when you connect into there. It's always a good idea after you make that connection on any fifth wheel to go over and make sure that those jaws or that pin is properly seated in there so that you don't have any issues with thinking that you're coupled, but you're really not. So always check that. It gives us those 3 indications so you know exactly, is it green, is it yellow, or is it red, and what am I trying to do? So I like the handle and being able to unhitch. It has a little spring, so you pop it out and you swing it forward and it opens up those jaws, but that handle kind of locks into place. I haven't had any issues with it binding. It's been really smooth to use. And even just the overall operation, I'd almost say that this is probably the quietest hitch that I've ever used for a fifth wheel. It's just very smooth and very quiet. With this hitch, you're able to tilt and pivot as you drive, but instead of having a piston on the side, they use like a rubber for dampening that. But the head is real easy to remove off of the base of this. You have a pin that you can pull, and then the pin that it's actually pivoting on, you just pull that out, and then the head just easily removes off. So you can remove that in one piece, and then just like the last one, you know, it's into that puck system. So a quarter turn on each of those legs, you're able to lift it out of the puck system. This hitch for me was extremely easy to move. I think it has something to do with the leg system, so there's a little bit less metal involved, so it's not going to be quite as heavy, and you're able to pull it closer to your body, so it's a little less awkward. And the handles that they put on there are actually in a fantastic position for being able to move it. It's very natural to be able to lift it in and out of the truck. It didn't feel like I needed an additional person. It felt like I was able to move it around without any problems. And when I was installing it back in the truck, I really do like the way that the handles tuck right up against the legs. They're just nice and clean. It's a good design. I really like the design of this hitch. The other thing that was a little bit different about this hitch is that the handle is actually spring loaded. So you pull it out, it's got a little spring in there, and you place it into position. That's easy to uncouple, but then when you're connecting it in, that spring really snaps it into place, and it's a real positive connection. Then you can pin it to where that handle cannot move while you're towing. So overall, I don't think you can go wrong picking either of these hitches. There's a few differences, a lot of similarities, but a few of those differences, depending on what's important to you, might be the deciding factor of why you go with one hitch over the other. But I'll put links down in the description to check out the current pricing on the hitches. I was very impressed with both of them, and they are both fantastic hitches. I think that's why you see people that have the B&W Companion hitch say, best hitch I've ever had, I love it, I would do it again. And then with the Curt, I also see very similar comments from people that have owned it. So easy to see why. But I think that's gonna do it for today. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you wanna see more videos about RVing, hit that subscribe button. And if we don't see you on the road, hopefully we will see you in the next video.